It is a beautiful day here. Hope you're having a good day wherever you're watching this and whenever you're watching this, whether it's now, well, obviously in your now, but it won't be in mine now, it'll be your future. But anyway, well, my future. Anyway, hope you're having a good day. It's a beautiful day here. I've been doing outside summer weather, and I've just been reflecting on how to move forward with the sometimes difficult and always controversial question of monetization. I'm making this video, I'm making this, recording this and posting it for three reasons. First reason being for me, just in condensing and documenting my thoughts and many hours of reflecting, number one. Number two, for full transparency for people that are watching, and for people that follow me, for people that support me, for people that are interested in my journey, mission, content creation, whatever you call it. And then the third reason is for future use, because I expect that I'll continue to get hate, or not even hate, but just critique or differing opinions on my view of monetization and how to make money in this space. And so hopefully it's a future use to people, again, in my future, your present, watching this. So those are the reasons of making it. Yeah, so I'm recording this in early summer of 2023. And for those that may not know, especially those that will begin following me in months and years to come, hopefully, Lord willing, is I blew up, quote unquote, online in January of this year, 2023. I went from less than 100 followers to 10,000 followers in a matter of weeks, less than a month, I'm pretty sure. I don't quite remember, but it was really fast. And I get the comments of how fast it was. But yeah, it was really fast. It was something that is not typical per se, it seems, although I don't know. But that's what people have said, that it's not typical. And I tend to believe that because I got offers pretty much immediately for monetizing content, monetizing articles, tweets, videos. Oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should make money here, make money there. You gotta start a newsletter, you gotta shill my crypto token, you gotta talk about my thing, talk about that, blah blah, and I don't know if that's something that people that don't have a following online don't realize, but it people want me to advertise their stuff, and there is plenty of opportunity to do that. And so I want to talk about why I've been hesitant to do that. So that was January. Now it's late May, probably post this late May, early June of 2023. So really 4 or 5 months I have been sitting on this, being hesitant to monetize, hesitant to make money on any of my content. And that's simply because I know that you only get to do things first once. You only get to make a first impression once. And, I've made no money. A couple $100, I suppose, from ads and AdSense from YouTube. But really, I've made no money to speak of. It's been entirely voluntary. I've gone to conferences already, gone to meetups already. I've posted a lot online, made a lot of YouTube videos, dozens of hours of content on YouTube, I'm sure. And anyway, all I have to say is I've been very slow to adopt monetization and hesitant to adopt it because I want to make sure I'm doing the right things. I want to set my boundaries clear up front for myself and for others when it comes to both what kinds of sponsorships I take, as well as how am I going to market myself and market these sponsorships. So I think the three main things to talk about are clickbait, number one, number two, sponsorships, and number three, other ways of monetizing. So first, when it comes to clickbait, as I have thought about it, reflected on it, discussed with others about it, prayed upon it, and just as I've mulled it over the last few months, what I've come to accept is that really when people complain about clickbait, they're not actually complaining about clickbait. They're complaining that they're dissatisfied in false advertisement, and they're dissatisfied in leaving viewers hanging and not following through the promises that are made. Because what clickbait is essentially is it's posing a promise of what this content is going to be. And the frustration people have with clickbait is that these titles that are grabbing your attention give you promises, and then the content doesn't fulfill them or doesn't satisfy that itch that the clickbait gives, which then leaves a sour taste in your mouth at the end of consuming that content. So I think really when people are frustrated with clickbait, they're frustrated with that false sense of advertising and with the short-term mindedness and the selfishness associated with that. I suppose. And so when I reflect on that, how do I want to approach it? Because there's a spectrum of I could be fully clickbait and do that, have a false sense of advertising, leave people hanging, or I could just not have thumbnails, headlines, or phrasings that grab people's attention at all. I think that's not effective and that's not right. And so where do I fall in the middle there? I think the first thing I would say is that my goal is to help other people understand Bitcoin. And I think you're not going to get them to understand Bitcoin if they have no interest in clicking on the piece of content that explains how Bitcoin has any relevance to them. And so I think you need something definitely that's going to grab people's attention. And I think also it needs to be said that two things can be true at once and that these things are not mutually exclusive. It's possible to give something enticing, to give something that brings people's attention in, while at the same time following through on that promise that the clickbait outlines in the first place. I think that's possible. And I think that if I can do that, then that mitigates much of the rational negative criticism of clickbait. Obviously, I always get criticism for clickbait. I don't care about irrational criticisms, but I think that makes sense. That if I'm going to post something that has an attention-grabbing headline, it must fulfill that itch. It must fulfill the premise that that headline gives. So, and I think that gets to a larger idea here that making money on the content and be educational in the content are not mutually exclusive. I do think it's possible to do both. I'll get to that more in a moment. So yeah, when it comes to clickbait, I think it must be something that is true, and I think it must be something that is held up, and I think a mix. It's very sad to me because I have posted both threads, articles, and now YouTube videos that have a spectrum. Some of them are Bitcoin's price is going to go to this, or how much Bitcoin to get rich, or get in before it's too late, or whatever. And then I post other content that's about the human benefit of Bitcoin. I post content about how Bitcoin helps people in developing nations. I post content about Bitcoin could potentially save human lives. And the funny thing is that I already get so much criticism from people that say that all of my content is revolved around price, 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 price. And it's like, that's really not the case. I've had a lot of content on both of those sides, and it just so happens that the content that talks about price, talks about the selfish argument, let's say, that just happens to get 5, 10, 20 times the number of views as the other stuff. And so that's what people assume that's all the content I make. Well, it's like, no, both are true. It's possible for Bitcoin both to bring monetary value to yourself while at the same time making the world a better place. So, but because one gets more views than the other, and that's just survivorship bias. That's what people assume all my content is. So really, I already kind of have that, but I expect that going forward, that's going to be the case. So yeah, all that to say is that I'll continue making content that focuses on the human benefits of Bitcoin, and really that'll get much less viewership. I'm aware of that. That's, a lot of content creators, a lot of people in the finance space don't focus on that. I will, just because that's a major component of what I care about. But people that follow me and stay consistent with my content will see that, and people that are new to my content and uh don't want to click on the clickbait, let's say, they won't watch it. So anyway, yeah, I'll continue both, but I think by bringing people in from that appealing to their selfish nature of how do I get rich, how do I preserve my capital, I think bringing people in with that and then having them stay for the revolution, having them stay for that understanding of what the real human cost is. I think you need a balance. I think you need both the absurd price numbers that, again, are genuinely held in belief. I don't want to clickbait things I don't believe, and I don't want to leave people hanging. But assuming that's the case, where I'm not making things up that I don't believe and that I actually fulfill that desire, I think you need both. I think you need to bring people in with that appeal to the selfish argument, and then I think you also need to keep people staying for more than just money, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin's more than money. So I think I've kind of made that pretty clear when it comes to clickbait. That's just my view on that. And so I think the line is crossed when I start putting out titles that I don't actually believe. I think the line is crossed when I no longer making content I believe in. I think the line is crossed when I'm no longer fulfilling that premise that I've outlined in the thumbnail, headline, and promise of what you'll get when watching that content. So that's my view when it comes to clickbait. When it comes to sponsorships, and this is just as controversial, and this is again something I've been hesitant at leading into over the last 4 months. But now it's time to start doing that because I'm putting in many hours into promoting these things online. And like I said, I'm making very little money on it, at least so far. Hopefully that changes later this year or in the future. But anyway, and it's similar with clickbait. It's not that people don't dislike sponsorships. I'm finding I think people dislike when someone is being sponsored by a company they don't agree with, or when someone is promoting a product or service or company or person that is immoral, or let's say selling out, for lack of a better term. When someone is promoting a partner or a sponsor that they don't really agree with, but they're just doing it to make the money. I think that's really what people have a problem with when it comes to sponsorships. And there are other things too people have problem with, but that's the real main one that I'm concerned about. Obviously, when it comes to finance, and the finance content creation space is infamous for this, both within Bitcoin and outside of Bitcoin, is that the incentives are so high. Advertisers pay a good bit of money. And of course, the advertisers that are more corrupt are the ones that pay more money because they can get less sponsorship elsewhere, because the people that are reputable and the people that won't cave, the people that won't sell out, won't take those sponsorships. And so, of course, they have to raise their prices so that people will be willing to sell their soul, so to speak, willing to sell their reputation in order for a larger profit. So that's part of the horrible irony, and that's why so many content creators, when it comes to finance, just do that, just because the incentive is so high. And I think fundamentally that's where, for me, the line is drawn. There are many people that say, "Oh, you shouldn't have sponsorships, you shouldn't monetize, blah blah blah. That's just a scam, whatever." And I don't think that's true. I think, again, when it comes to Bitcoin, the larger mission of trying to accelerate Bitcoin adoption, I think it could be a win-win. If I can find sponsors that are providing products, services, and applications for people that are either adopting Bitcoin or going deeper down their own Bitcoin rabbit hole, I think that could be a win-win there. If I have the funding to improve my equipment, to be able to afford more time at producing more content and better content and more frequent content, if I have the funds to be able to do that, while simultaneously I'm able to present products and services and give people a place to go that is giving more of their monetary energy within the Bitcoin ecosystem. Like, I don't see as a bad thing. If I'm able to promote a company that I think is providing a legitimate service and I think is acting morally, I mean, I don't see that's a bad thing. I get funded, I'm able to produce more educational content for people to understand, and they're able to perhaps have more customers towards their direction, and thus reduce the likelihood of them going bust or them being bankrupted, and increase the probability that they grow into the future and provide more services for people. I mean, I don't see that's a bad thing. There are people out there, though, that have said that, there are people that would disagree with me. That's all I'm saying. But that's just my view, and I'm just being transparent that that's my view. I don't think that me being sponsored is a bad thing. And so, what are those boundaries? Like I said, I already said a couple of them. I believe the company must be moral. I believe the people behind the company must be acting morally. I believe they must be acting soundly. I think a line is crossed when there's ambiguity there, and I just ignore the ambiguity and I just take the money. I think that's a line that is crossed. And so, anyway, that's kind of my justification, that really I would only promote companies or products and services that I think have a legitimate use case. Ideally, one that I use myself. Ideally, a product or service I would use myself, but at the very least, a product or service that I can understand the trade-offs it would make. So, for example, maybe I promote something that has a certain set of trade-offs that people don't like. Well, perhaps maybe not even I like that, but as long as morality is not compromised, as long as security is not compromised, then I can see how for some people that trade-off might make sense. So, for example, I'm in a different financial situation and educational situation and look, different place in the world as many people, and perhaps I can feel comfortable advertising a sponsor that is providing a product or service that is for people from a different background of myself or in a different financial position myself. So I guess all I have to say is that I don't think the line is crossed when one begins promoting a company that they wouldn't personally use, because different companies, different products and services have different applications, different people. I do think the line is crossed when I believe that they're making trade-offs that I don't think are morally okay, or monetarily sound. I do think a line is crossed there. I've given it a good bit of thought of would I accept sponsorships from companies or individuals that are not Bitcoin only? And I do think I would, with the exception of, well, with the qualification of what are they promoting? I think it is very different to support a scam token, let's say, as many influencers do. I do think that's very different than promoting a non-Bitcoin only company that provides Bitcoin services as well as other services. I do think those are very different things. And so it's not, to me, it's not just is the company Bitcoin only or not, it's what exactly am I promoting of that company? Am I magnifying the component of the company that is Bitcoin focused and is Bitcoin oriented and is Bitcoin only? Or am I magnifying the part of the company that is not that? And I think that's the larger differentiator there versus the company itself. And you know, at the end of the day, the reason I came to that conclusion is just thinking about not just Bitcoin versus altcoins, but Bitcoin versus everything else. I mean, you know, if a company has US dollars, let's say, or euros, I mean, it's like, okay, they're not Bitcoin only then because they have political currency units. I mean, does that mean that I should disqualifying them? I mean, no, I have dollars. I have a bank account, you know. I mean, I'm not Bitcoin only, I suppose. So that's a little hypocritical, I think. You know, I mean, the reality is that even most toxic Bitcoin maximalists, even the majority of them aren't 100% in Bitcoin. They have a little bit of political currency, they have a little bit of cash, and we can quibble about how moral that is all day. But at the end of the day, that's just the way that the world is, and that's just the way that, you know, while we are in the transition from one worldview or one monetary system to another worldview and another monetary system, I mean, the reality is that most people, practically speaking, have to have their feet in both areas. And so if a company wants me to accept their sponsorship and they provide both fiat products and services as well as Bitcoin products and services, I don't see a moral line being crossed there in accepting that sponsorship, as long as, again, I am promoting that aspect of the company, which I think is the most use and actually of practical use to people when they're understanding Bitcoin. So hopefully it made that point clear. And then, like I said, there must be justifiable trade-offs. You know, people can do what they want with their money. They can do what they want with their time. They can do what they want with their energy. And, you know, I should not pretend like every single thing I support and am sponsored by is just something that I would do myself. You know, there are products and services that perhaps I could see myself recommending to a family or member or a friend that I wouldn't myself use. You know, I think that's possible. So anyway, all I have to say when it comes to sponsorships, despite the controversy and despite people disagreeing, that's just my worldview. I'm not saying that to say that you have to agree with me. I'm just saying that's my perspective and being fully transparent in that. So you know that when I'm advertising a sponsor, that's the moral framework and criteria I'm running through in my mind. Are they actually providing a legitimate product and service? Are they in the direction of Bitcoin, which is the direction ideally that I would want? And does it seem to me that they have a set of trade-offs that I find justifiable, not immoral, and not exploiting the customer in a zero-sum game? You know, that's basically my frame of reference. So yeah, and then the third thing being other monetization. You know, again, as soon as I went viral on Twitter, people were like, "Oh, you got to set up this, you got to do that, you got to make money here and that, the other." And I was just like, "No, no, no, I don't want to think about that because it's just that's not what's important. Making a few hundred or a few $1,000s, that's not that's not what's important. Both from a business perspective, from a moral perspective, from accelerating Bitcoin adoption perspective, just from every perspective. It's like, why would I be okay? Why would I immediately begin anyway?" Um, Point being that I'm thinking about this very slowly, and this is my framework today at the time of recording this. When it comes to would I do a course, would I write a book and then sell that book? What about consulting? Would I hire my time out for consulting work and all that? I think, or a newsletter, or you know, all the other things that people do online. And I think my general answer is that I'm open to all those things. Um, However, again, there must be value for value. There must be a trade-off there that's not exploiting inherently. There must be a trade-off there. I mean, I can't in good conscience write a book and advertise it, make a course and advertise it, write a newsletter, advertise it, whatever. If I think that I'm just putting a bunch of fluff in there, like I think there actually has to be something of value in there for people, that makes it justifiable for them paying for it and giving their energy. Like I have to actually put energy into it in order to feel in order to be able to sleep at night, knowing that people are putting their energy into buying it. So course, book, consulting, or newsletter. I mean, of those four, I'm just doing the consulting right now. I do consulting. People online don't realize that yet. I've not tweeted about it at all yet, but I do consulting. I do consulting for um higher net worth people and people looking to learn more about Bitcoin. I don't charge very much. I'm just doing it more for the practice and repetition to, get better, I suppose. But, and I make it very clear before people hire me, is that what we will discuss in this call will be nothing different from what I post online for free. If you want to know my thoughts, you can go online for free and you can get 90% of all my thoughts, for free. Like what I'm posting out there publicly for free is not different in any way from what we would talk about on a call. And I think I for me, that's that's acceptable. There are people that would say, "Oh, all consultants are a scam, or all advisors are scams, or all blah blah blah, they're scams," and I fundamentally don't agree with that. I think if people want to have a conversation with another human being, whether it's in person or through an online call, I think there is value in that. If someone wants to pay me for my time, ask me any question they want, no matter how specific that is or how generalized that is, I I think that's legitimate. Again, as long as I'm being consistent with my worldviews, it is immoral, I think, for someone to give one persona online publicly and have a different persona or different worldview in private. Like to me, that's not right. And that's not just true with consulting, which I'm doing now, but that's true with the book, it's true with the course, it's true with newsletter or anything else. It's like online, I say, don't trade Bitcoin, don't trade Bitcoin, don't trade Bitcoin. If if I also have a course or newsletter or whatever that is a course on how to trade Bitcoin, it's like that makes no sense to me. So all I have to say is that for the many people asking me, yeah, I was at the Bitcoin conference recently. It's still my band on actually, and people ask me, "You're gonna write a book? You're gonna write a book?" Again, I don't know if people realize how many requests I've gotten to do this or that together, and it's like when it comes to the book, yeah, I'll probably do a book eventually because people want it. People say they're willing to pay for it. I mean, I might as well. Again, the more I'm able to afford to do this, then the more content I can make, the better content I can make. So, people clearly desire that, would find value in that. So anyway, all I have to say is that yeah, I probably will expand into other pieces of content and other forms of monetizing these forms of content. And yeah, I will probably make money on them. They will be for profit. However, I don't think that's where the line of morality is drawn. Is it information for profit or not? I think the line is drawn as, are you being upfront with what the value you can provide is, and is that the value you're gonna get? Same thing with clickbait. It's immoral for me to say, oh, look, I'm launching a course or a book or whatever, and then not deliver on those promises. That's wrong. It's also not right to, as I said, have two different faces, two different personas, and then change that based on are you paying or not. That's not good. So anyway, all I have to say is that yeah, I'm here, I'm making content. Hopefully some of these forms of content, maybe all these forms of content will eventually make money. They probably will make a lot of money. Maybe they will though. I mean, I don't know. There's no telling what a bull market would do. There's no telling 5 years from now, where this would be. But yeah, hopefully they make money. Probably they'll make money. But I hope that in making this video and by people watching other pieces of my content and seeing who I am, what I believe, and me being fully transparent in my personal beliefs, I hope I can build that reputation for people where they understand where my moral lines are, where my lines where I think is right and wrong is, and I don't think it's wrong for me to make an income from doing this. I don't think it's wrong for me to be gaining monetary value in exchange of helping other people identify what's their superior form of monetary value. Like I don't think that's contradictory. I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. And that goes down to a deeper belief of mine that I don't think that our own happiness and God's own happiness are mutually exclusive. I think a lot of people, when they think of religion, that's the case. It's just that's not the case. We are most glorified in Jesus when we are most satisfied in truth. But anyway, that goes down to a deeper worldview I have anyway. But yeah, all that to say, is that I'll probably make mistakes in the future. I'll probably have sponsors that I regret partially or in full. I'll probably have podcast guests that will do things or say things or believe in things or be associated with things that I do not agree with. Um, I can't believe I have to say that. But I'm saying it now for future reference because I have watched the space from afar. I know how it is. I'm probably going to have a guest that finds himself in a lot of controversy, and by me having a podcast with them, people are going to assume that's the things I believe. It's like, no, that's not the case. I won't agree 100% with every person I talk with online. I won't agree 100% with every sponsor I have with online. But as long as I believe that person I'm interviewing, that person I'm on their show, as long as that company or the product, the service, as long as I believe they have good faith to the best of my estimation, and as long as I believe they're actually providing value, and as long as I believe that they're going to fulfill the promise of what the premise is, I mean, to me, I think that's justifiable. I think that's moral. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'll make mistakes. Even though I've spent months thinking about how to monetize in an ethical way, in a moral way, and in a way that brings value for other people, I'll make mistakes. And that's just the name of the game. And my hope is to make the minimal number of mistakes possible. And to be clear from the beginning, as I am in this video, that you should not trust me. You should not trust me. You should not trust anyone on the internet or real life for that matter. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin is outside the control of any singular human or any collective humans. And, don't trust, verify, all the mantras. Like, that's the point that should make. I hope to build my reputation and present myself in the most transparent manner possible so that people trust me, but nobody should fully trust me. And so I'll do my absolute best, but people need to be responsible. Likewise, I need to be responsible. And so I'll be responsible to the best of my ability. And hopefully I continue to provide content that is engaging with people, that is useful to people, and that brings value to people. And if I do a good enough job, people may give me monetary value in return. So that's I have been asked what was the ways people can support me. Right now, and I've said this and other things too, but right now the best way people can support me is by supporting this film here. So I am making a film. I'm fundraising for it at the time of recording here. It's got roughly 12.2, 12.3 million sats thrown its way, so a couple $1,000. This is just a film about Bitcoin. It's a passion project. I'd be making this film either way. I'm volunteering my time for it. People, the feedback's really nice. People seem to be really positive about it. Jason here, Javier here, undisclosed here, very nice donation from him. People are very nice. And so there's on Geyser. You can find it on Geyser, or GoFundMe, obviously. Um, people probably prefer Geyser if they're watching this, but multiple platforms. Not everyone prefers that. But anyway, all I say, that's the best way people can help me. That's just a passion project. I'm donating all in time for the script, and it's probably not gonna make any money. Maybe it will. Be nice if it would. uh, justify more time into it, but I know it probably won't. So yeah, this is kind of a low quality rambling of mine, but I hope that it's useful to people. I hope this is just authentic and raw and transparent of my view when it comes to clickbait, when it comes to sponsorships, and when it comes to monetizing things in the future. And the long story short is that, yeah, I'll try to monetize, and I'll monetize as best I can. And I'll just do the best of bringing value into companies that I believe are actually providing value and services, whether that's a different company or my company. And the free market will either reward or punish me. And so I just got to do my best. So anyway, hope that's useful. Thanks.